It has been a couple of weeks, but I mean, I've been pretty well. I've had some really cool things happen these past couple of weeks. Now, well, hang on. Before I go into that, Mr. Nice Guy, I just want to ask you: Are you hearing your voice on the preview in on Twitch? I'm waiting for the delay. No, no, we don't have your audio on. We don't have your audio on Twitch, man. No worries, bear with us, folks, as Mr. Nice Guy and I work through some technical difficulties. Sorry for putting everything on temporary delay,
Okay,
but
it should be set now. I'm pretty sure it's good to go. So now we should be
there we go.
live.
Yep.
Everyone should be hearing the audio. We did some switching around of things today, but now we're set. So now, Mac, I want to hear about your exciting week, man. Tell me about it.
Okay, so where to even start? All right, been doing lots of preparation for an upcoming astronomy event that I'm helping Mrs. the Mac with. Normally, I'm doing those Monday, Wednesday, and Friday classes on my own personal Twitch channel, and I had to help her with some stuff, which necessitated last Wednesday's. A sort of not making it to do that show or that class. But I mean, we went out to the middle of nowhere, did a wonderful star party for some people. That was lots of fun. Last Friday, I was asked to judge a science fair for basically, I guess, elementary and middle school kids.
Okay.
And so I got to be the final say in chemistry, all of the chemistry projects, and there were some kids that I'm just like, I want to take you home with me, and just because they were so awesome and cute and little scientists, and I was like, ah,
That's
I need a child like that, you
that's
know?
awesome. That's awesome.
And well, so anyway, also we had this we had a fantastic weekend, a little bit of a crazy weekend when somebody did a bunch of property damage here.
Oh, that's
um,
always fun.
yeah, they drove a truck through my gate. And yeah, so I only really get like one day off a week, but so I spent my day off that week um trying to fix that nonsense. So it's been a lot of ups and a lot of downs and a lot of just general craziness, but all in all, very good. How about you, Mr. Nice Guy? How's your week been?
Dude, I didn't have anyone drive through my gate, but I mean, things are good, man. You guys know I'm recording the comedy special in about 3 weeks, a little over
Yep.
3 weeks, and so I've just been doing as much stand-up as possible. The jokes are all written, but I'm just trying to get all the timing even a little bit tighter. I mean, I could do it now and I'd be good, but I want it to be really, really as close to perfect as possible. So that's been my
Okay.
main focus.
I've got a quick question for you about the upcoming comedy special.
Yeah, yeah.
As those of you who are viewers, regular viewers of Mr. Nice Guy know that Mr. Nice Guy lives in Chicago currently.
That's right.
However, he will be coming back to do this comedy show taping in Utah. And so I have to ask, Mr. Nice Guy, are we going to have any region-specific jokes, or a lot of things? I mean, I don't want you to spoil anything, but I am curious. Are you concerned at all about stuff that lands well in Chicago not landing well in Utah?
Not really, man, because I started in Utah. I did comedy in Utah for like 6 years before I moved to Illinois. So I'm not going to do like Utah jokes, if that makes sense. A lot of comics will do that. They'll come out and they'll open up with a local joke. But I don't think I'm going to do that, man. I think my material is solid. I've been doing it for a long time. So it'll be, and it works. It's pretty universal, if that makes sense. You know, sometimes New York comics will write jokes about being on the subway, and they're not really relatable outside of New York. That's just one example. But my stuff is pretty solid, pretty universal. So I'm not real stressed about that. Are you gonna? Do you
Excellent.
think you're gonna be able to make it? I'm gonna put you on the spot on camera right now. You and the missus.
Oh yes, Mr. Nice Guy. I'm going to be there. I believe I'll be able to have Mrs. the Nice or Mrs. the Nice. I believe I'll be able to have Mrs. the Mac there with me.
That's awesome.
But at the very least, I'm there.
Sweet.
It's done. I've got the time off. We're good to go.
Dude, I'm excited. I'm excited, man. Well, cool. But that's what I've been working on. And Mac, I say on that note, we do what we do best, man, and we hop right into the gaming news.
Let's do it, Mr. Nice Guy.
All right. Once again, this is episode 63 of Two Nerds in a Pod, and I'm so hyped because it's been a couple weeks since we were able to do this. First news story comes from the good people at Game Rant. It's about one of my favorite games, Overwatch. It says, anyone who has been gaming in 2018 knows that Battle Royale is the trend of the year. The PUBG craze brought the 100-player free-for-all mode to the forefront of the community, and since then, similar modes in many other games have been incredibly popular. Although the trend has worked out well in many games, Blizzard isn't so sure that it would be the case for Overwatch. The Overwatch gentleman, there's a quote from him here. And it says, Kaplan made it clear in the interview that he's a big fan of the game mode and of PUBG, but he also sounded like the dev team wouldn't want to rush into a new mode without a serious plan. Here's the quote. First and foremost, Overwatch is a game about heroes, and part of what makes the core loop work in a battle royale game is the search, the looting, and the fairness that everybody's sort of equal. Overwatch wasn't designed to be 1v1. Every hero is not balanced against every other hero. I think there are also some technical challenges of large open game spaces. Our primary engagement distance is usually around 15 to 40 meters. I won't read the whole quote, but that's it. Now, Mac, even though you're not into the competitive multiplayer, I'm sure you're aware of the Battle Royale mode and how big of a thing it is. Any games you play that you can think of that would be fun to add a Battle Royale mode? Now, I immediately think a Left 4 Dead Battle Royale could work, dude. If someone was to make a mod, I think that'd be fantastic. I can think of other games too, but I don't want to take the words out of your mouth. Any games you think would actually successfully implement this?
Honestly, I think for good implementation of Battle Royale, I think your game needs to be structured for it. I mean, maybe you could shoehorn something for Left 4 Dead in there, and I'd at least give it a shot. But
what about like Minecraft?
I mean, they already kind of do have some Battle Royale things. I've some people with mods doing things like Hunger Games style bits, and people who like that seem to like that. You see, problem is I'm just not a believer in the format. So
not a believer in the format of Battle Royale, last man standing, not your thing. See, I remember some of the most fun times I had playing Minecraft was not building stuff. It was, us getting 4 people on one team, 4 people on another, and then saying, all right, you go to the other end of the map, we'll go to this end of the map. We have 10 minutes to get loot and stuff, to get building materials, and then we're going to battle to the death. And obviously it's not made for that, but I had a lot of fun doing it, trying to sneak up on people and whatnot. So, I don't know. I will say that I have to applaud the Overwatch devs for not trying to shoehorn it in, because I agree with them. Overwatch is really a game where not all characters are equal, and it is team-based, so I don't know how this could work. So, anyway, moving on. And, Mac, this next story, I'm almost 100% sure you're aware of it. And I'm pretty sure that if you're not aware of it, that you're going to be excited. And this is on GameInformer.com. It says, Chasm, the long-awaited action platformer that fans might remember playing on PlayStation 4 launch demo units, will finally release this summer on PC, PlayStation 4, and Vita. The announcement, which was made today via a PS Blog update, recalls Chasm's 2013, Mac. 2013 Kickstarter. That's 5 years ago, I just got to say. That's a long time. That hope to bring the game out within a year or two. The goal is slightly delayed, but the game is finally coming this summer. The team is putting their final touches on the game in preparation for a release in a few months. Chasm combines elements of Castlevania, Super Meat Boy, and more in an interesting blend of action platforms.
Whoa, Super Meat Boy?
That's what it says here on the Game Informer article. I've seen you play it, and I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, unless somehow some serious things have changed, I would not put Super Meat Boy on there. But, oh well, I mean, it's always possible. I am looking forward to the beta as a Kickstarterer. I will have access to the beta, which should be pretty fun, and I will be streaming the crap out of it.
Dude, I can't wait. I can't wait.
And of course, Mr. Nice Guy, as you know, I believe I have a PlayStation, a copy for
Mac,
PlayStation.
That's what
my
I'm
way,
talking about, man. That is what I'm talking about. I'm excited to play it because I've seen you play it and it looks awesome. Now, here's my question about it. How's the replayability?
Well, let me just take a. Oh, well, I don't want to open up. Okay, last time I looked on Steam, I had put nearly 100 hours into the alpha. So
Wow.
as long as I mean, and that only had about 20% of the content in it. So I hope that says something about how replayable the alpha was, and hopefully how much the beta and the final release will be.
Now, you kind of answered my question. So there will be content in the final version that you have not already experienced. Is that correct?
Correct. And there will be content in the final version and in the beta that I haven't experienced. I don't know how much in each of the various versions there is going to be, or how much change there is. I'm given to understand that the beta that I will play will be sort of it will be content complete, or maybe even feature complete, and it'll just be a sort of retooling last minute of this based on beta feedback and things like that.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I will put in one plug for the fact that there is a area that has poisonous muck in it.
Ooh.
That is there because there was quicksand there, and I demonstrated how you could just walk through the quicksand. So it was turned into poison muck solely to prevent Maction from cheesing it. So mac and cheese strats.
Mac and cheese strats. This is no joke, you guys. Mac got early access to the game, and the devs watched some of your streams, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, I brought it to their attention because I actually sort of my thing was trying to do it pacifist, was trying to play through the whole alpha without killing any not 100% required enemies, and that was what brought this whole workaround to the forefront. I just used that to just skirt around these guys entirely at the expense of time, because it was slow, but at the expense of time for not actually having to kill any enemies. Right. So yeah, that's how they got clued in. I didn't make a point of hiding it or anything, but they did see me do that.
Sure. All right, cool. Well, moving on, and Chasm looks fantastic. I don't know how much it's going to cost, but just from what I've seen, I would recommend people pick it up. Next news story comes from a different source than normal, from pushsquare.com. This is about Spider-Man, and everyone loves Spider-Man, right? Does anyone not like Spider-Man? Fantastic. We all like it. It says Spider-Man's hotly anticipated PlayStation 4 release date has been decided, according to Game Informer magazine. As part of an exclusive cover story set to run this week and all month online, the popular American publication has confirmed that it's played the game and knows its release date. Of course, Sony's keeping that information under wraps for the time being. Now, an update to this story is that the release date is going to be announced tomorrow. And I think that just from what I have seen of Spider-Man, it looks like it could rival the Arkham Batman games, which in my opinion are some of the best superhero games ever made. Mac, I want to ask you, I know you're not you don't really do consoles as much as I do, but any superhero games that you have positive memories of that you'd want to bring up?
Superman 64 is probably
trolling. Positive memories of, and if not, that's okay.
Honestly, I can't really think of any. I mean, I think Samus is a superhero and Mega Man's a superhero, but not from the comic book side of things.
Okay, fair enough. Well, unfortunately, this game is going to be on PlayStation 4, so I'll let you come over and play it. Sound good?
That sounds great.
Fair enough. Let's see what else we got in the news for this week, you guys. We got a lot of good stuff, man. Let's talk about Xbox. Let's talk backwards compatibility. This one comes from GameSpot. It says Microsoft is preparing to make some kind of announcement about original Xbox backward compatibility to support on Xbox One, it seems. In a blog post today, Microsoft said it has a, quote, big update, unquote, to share regarding this. The announcement will be made during the next episode of Inside Xbox, which premieres on Tuesday, April 10th at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Quote, one of our most common requests is for original Xbox backward compatibility news, and we'll be starting off the show with a big update on just that, Microsoft said in a post on Xbox Wire. I never owned the original Xbox, and I know you did, Matt.
I did.
Or at least you played it.
And I still have it. And as a matter of fact, I should save this for what I've been playing, but I have been playing some original Xbox, some OG Xbox, as they like to say.
So you just kind of answered my question, man. People still really want to play these games. And I won't ask you what game you've been playing because we'll save it for the later segment. But in my mind, it seems like the main game that people would want to play from the original Xbox would be Halo. And those games are still very much available on Xbox One in the Master Chief Collection. So I guess I don't know why people want backwards compatibility so much. Maybe you can think of some other games that people would want to play that aren't available. In remastered form, and we could talk about it later. I just can't think of any reason why we need this, but that's just me. So, moving on. What other news we got, man? Some of this stuff is not really that interesting. Well, we can talk about this one. Let's talk about Pokemon. This one comes from IGN.com, and this involves a huge lawsuit involving Niantic. And was this going to be your story for later, Mac?
I was going to update on it, but I've got multiples, so you take it away, Mr. Nice Guy.
Do you want to talk about this one right now, my friend?
No. Okay. Yeah, sure, mate. No. You do it. You got this.
Okay. I got this. This is last year's Pokemon Go Fest was something of a disaster for Niantic, and the company has settled a class action suit that was filed as a result for almost $1.6 million. The event was plagued with problems from the outset, with the game crashing frequently and leaving most players unable to use the app, including IGN's Andrew Goldfarb, who was in attendance. Once again, this is from IGN. It says, in the wake of the underwhelming festivities, Niantic issued full refunds to the fest's attendees, $100 worth of in-game Pokecoins, and issued an apology. Their efforts to smooth things over proved to be insufficient, with the affected parties demanding that their travel costs be reimbursed too. A lawsuit seeking expenses was put together in July last year. TechCrunch reports that Niantic is settling the lawsuit with a $1,575,000 payout to cover the costs of travel, accommodation, car rental, and other expenses incurred by a large chunk of the 20,000 attendees. So, I have some opinions on this, but what are your opinions, Mac?
So on the one hand, I feel like if you're going to run an event based around the promise of being able to do special things with a game, the game actually does need to run. Coupled with that, though, I think that that maybe pursuing, travel costs is maybe a little bit much. Just because I don't think inherent in any event is a... I don't know, Mr. Nice Guy. It's tough to say. You could argue if they never put, if an organization never put on an event, you wouldn't have spent the money. So maybe that is damages. But at the same time, if it was something like, let's just say it was a, something that not Niantic put on, but somebody else put on an event, would we expect travel expenses from them, if the event didn't turn out to meet our expectations?
And I don't think we would.
I don't know. I mean, I feel a little way about, expecting travel expenses being a bit much, but hey, if a judge sees it that way, then more power to the plaintiffs.
I think this is crazy, I strongly disagree with this behavior in this class action lawsuit. So let's say that I fly to Seattle because I grew up there, and I'm a huge Mariners fan, right? Mm-hmm. And I buy tickets specifically to see the Seattle Mariners play, and for whatever reason, the game is canceled. Let's say a gas pipe burst in the stadium, and no one can be in the stadium. Or let's just say there's a rain delay and then the game has to be canceled because the field got wet before they could close the roof of the stadium. Something happens. I'm sure there'd be other people in the stadium who traveled there to see the Mariners too. Doesn't mean that we get our airfare refunded. I think that that's a little bit crazy. Now, granted, this was a class action lawsuit, so there were many people involved who felt that they were wronged, but I just don't understand where we draw the line as far as compensation for this type of thing. To me, this is a sense of entitlement. And you know what? I can guarantee that these people who didn't get to have fun at the Pokemon Go Fest or whatever it was called probably got to participate in some other really awesome stuff outside of the event. So, I mean, it was in Chicago, I believe. I'm pretty sure that they went and had some Chicago pizza and maybe saw some cool movies and saw the Bean and did some other stuff and still had a great trip. They just didn't get to do the Pokemon Go stuff. So I disagree with this. That's just my opinion. Let us know in the chat what you think. Mac, do you have any other thoughts on that, or should we keep it moving, man?
No, that's all I've got for that.
All right. And let's talk about PUBG, and then let's wrap this up. So PUBG's new map. This is from Polygon. It says, last night, and this was written a couple days ago, last night the latest map for PUBG dropped on a new invite-only test server. It's smaller by far than either of the two maps already released for the game, but it sacrifices nothing. In fact, it's a dense playground that will appeal to hardcore players and skilled teams alike. The map is called Codename Savage for now, and it's Battleground's first 4 kilometer by 4 kilometer map. Both of the previous maps were 8 kilometers on a side, but that's not the only difference. It has a tropical Asian theme. While the jungle isn't nearly as oppressive and dense as you might find portrayed in a film like Full Metal Jacket or Predator, it includes much more foliage than any of the game's previous maps. So here's my thoughts on this. PUBG is killing it. Fortnite is killing it. Battle Royale is here to stay. I'm glad that these companies are not resting on their laurels, that they are continuing to add new content, and also that they don't give too much content. If they had 15 maps, I feel like it would be excessive, but they are slowly doing things to keep the player base involved, and minimal microtransactions in PUBG. So, fantastic work. That's our news for the week. Mac, it's all you, buddy.
All right. Well, now that we've taken a little look at what's going on around us right now, I want to take us back in time for a little bit. We're going to look at some of the developments that have occurred in the weeks since we have recorded last. And I do have 2 bits of not so much video game history, but just sort of general technology history that I think are definitely worth noting. One of them is that about 45 years ago, I think it was, the first cell phone call was made.
What? Did you say 45
10
years ago?
Yes, because and then about 10 years later, we had the release of the first actual cellular telephone.
Okay.
Motorola, the big old gray brick with the, telescoping.
The Zach Morris Saved by the Bell cellular phone.
Even before that, but I think it might have been the same or similar model. But yeah, that was definitely early cell phone. So you're on the right track. But it's one of those things where that started in early April, 30, 40 years back.
Wow.
Of course, the first cell phone call was this sort of, experimental thing. They talked it over with the FCC. That's the sort of thing. The groundwork there was being laid.
Gotcha.
And then in April, 10 years later, they finally had that first thing to bring to market for people to buy. So, but I mean, and of course now cell phones are a big component of our gaming experience.
Right.
One other sort of thing, and this is not video game related, I would argue at all, but I think is historically significant, that in 1999, the first self-spreading computer virus, Melissa, right, came about in early April. It used Microsoft Outlook to email itself to everybody inside of somebody's, address book.
Contacts, yeah.
And infected over 250,000 computers and was estimated to have caused $80 million in damage. That first self-spreading computer virus. So not
Dang.
video game related, but I mean, 1999, folks. And then there. But on to actual video game news. Just a couple of the things to highlight. In 2002, the 007 Agent Under Fire released for the original Xbox. I actually really didn't care for this game, but 007 Agent Under Fire was one of those games that was crafted in such a way that you could leverage its boot process to soft mod your Xbox. Which many of us did. It was a specific way in which the boot code of the game was written so as to give you this opening to load your own, to load the custom software for your soft modded Xbox.
It's so fascinating to me how that happens. Because are you familiar with the Twilight Princess?
Well, I am. Yes.
There was a Twilight Princess hack that was the same thing that allowed people to soft mod their Wii. So it's just interesting to me how sometimes certain games open up that functionality. Anyway.
Yeah, and I am nowhere near the type of expert that I would need to be to tell you how it works. Just that game, was how we did it on original Xboxes, and that made a big difference to me because I used it to mod mine. So yeah, which I still have and still use, and we'll get back to that. In 2005, Sony released the PSP. Which
I had one. It was great. It was a great console.
Yeah, I did not have a PSP, but I know many people who did, and they thoroughly enjoyed theirs. And then I think the one other bit I want to mention is in 2015, the release of Final Fantasy Record Keeper on iOS and Android. And this was an impactful moment for me because I had seen a lot of Square Enix releases for iOS and Android, like Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, and so on. But it wasn't really until 2015 that they put out Final Fantasy Record Keeper that I thought, they are never, they're not going to put anywhere near as much time into the games I love as they're going to put into this game for microtransactions. The Square Enix that I had hoped in my heart and mind would do this, that, or the other is dead. Sobering stuff. And that's where we'll end with gaming history on that down note, on that modulation to a minor key.
Fantastic. Well, for our next segment, you guys, it's time for the topic of the week. A segment where we talk about something that's happening in the gaming industry. You could tell we're a little rusty this week. It's been I actually had to think for a second, what's the next segment? Because we haven't done this in a couple weeks. But regardless, here's what we're going to talk about this week. We give our opinions on it, and then you give us yours in the chat. This is on GameSpot. It says, indie devs spent $140,000 to make a new game. Has made $0 so far. It's a loaded title. It says, Gone Home developer Jonaman Nordhagen, I probably butchered that name, I apologize, released his newest game, the American folklore title Where the Water Tastes Like Wine, in February. Ahead of launch, the signs looked positive that it would find an audience. It was covered in the press, people were talking about it, and it got a jolt of hype thanks to Sting's involvement. Unfortunately for Nordhagen, the game was not the success he would have wanted from a commercial perspective. In a frank and sobering post-mortem on Medium, Nordhagen discussed Where the Water Tastes Like Wine's success and shortcomings, and one of the most noteworthy bits that he has made $0 from the game so far. That doesn't mean the game has sold 0 copies, but instead that Nordhagen hasn't seen any money after paying off his contractors and collaborations. He reportedly spent around $140,000 out of his own pocket to pay collaborators. Quote, so far I have made $0 from the game, he wrote. That may look like a high number, but consider that it took 4 years to make. That works out to approximately $0 a year. Compared to the $120,000 plus a year salary of a 15-year veteran in a AAA studio, it begins to look a lot smaller. And then if I go into the hourly breakdown, I don't have an actual count of hours spent making the game, but there was a lot of crunch that went into it. So I am guesstimating that I made about $0 an hour. That's not a lot. He goes on to say, and then once you factor in the around 140,000 I spent paying my contractors and collaborators for the game, you begin to see that maybe it wasn't, financially speaking, worth it. I guess I will have to wait a bit longer to buy that, Juicero. So I'm not going to say this guy should be the dummy of the week, because in his defense, he put in a lot of time and he put in a lot of money. And if you watch the podcast, you know that I'm critical of Kickstarters when they take a lot of money from people and they don't complete the game. This guy not only spent 4 years completing the game, but then put his own cash down to get it done. Now, here's where I want to get your opinion, Mac, because this is something that, as a guy who plays a lot of indies, I think that you will have good insight into. This is a quality game from all things that I can tell. Do you think that we've reached the point where we are oversaturated with indie games specifically? I mean, if we're at a point where well-made indie games aren't selling, what are your thoughts?
I remember, Mr. Nice Guy, I remember a time when all you would get for games were the specifically curated experiences that a game developer would want. Like, for example, to take it back to the Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, you as a company could buy X number, and I think the number was 3. It was either 3 or 5. Maybe it was even 6, but it was single-digit number of licenses, and Nintendo would only permit you to release that many games per year of the, for each year. That's all that they would do. Discoverability of good titles is always going to be an issue, especially when the floodgates are wide open and we can have many people, many indies, many, whoever's making games. But I would rather have too many options than too few options. If I wanted a sandbox game, previous to the indie revolution, I had basically close to 0 options. But now sandbox games are a popular component of, a popular genre amongst indie developers. And so I can get what I want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let me ask you this. On a scale of 1 to 10, just thinking back to your experience playing Cave Story, because I know you've played it. Where would you rate? What rating would you give that game? 1 to 10, 10 being the highest.
Is this where I give it a 10? Now I can have no other games be a 10?
No. This is just
okay.
It's independently.
I give it 9.9.
Okay.
It's almost a perfect game in my eyes.
And how many people worked on that game?
Just one.
Yeah. And so that's my point. I don't know if some of these indie studios need to be putting so much not time, but so much money and so much capital into developing their game, and obviously they want it to be good, and I can respect that. They're getting some of the best people in the business to come in and do the music and come in and do the artwork. But Nicholas, who made Cave Story, did it solo. Not everyone has those skills, but it leads me to believe that there has to be a way that some of these indie studios can cut costs and not end up in the red like this. When I look at the Nintendo eShop each week for the Switch, they're releasing like 19 games a week. And granted, some of them, this week they just released the classic Punch-Out arcade version. And so some of them are games.
I was going to ask if their release this week included Skyrim.
No, that'll be in the future though.
Oh, okay.
But no, I guess my point is I feel like there are just too many indie games. And it's not that there are too many good ones. It's just that there are too many games. And so it's hard to sift through them. And even some of the really, really, really good ones get lost in the shuffle. There will be the cream of the crop, the Celestes, the Cave Stories, the Shovel Knights that rise to the top, right? But there's going to be other good ones like this game that just maybe don't, and then people end up losing money and losing 4 years of their life. So I hope this guy's game is a success. But I would say indie studios, just focus on the quality. Don't drop so much money on trying to get your games going when you don't don't know that they're going to sell. That's my opinion. Mac, you have anything else you want to say on this?
I think you're being a little bit too harsh, but
Okay.
but in general, I think I understand where you're coming from. That
Fair
you
enough.
could allocate your money toward other things than having Sting be doing the music.
And
But
that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
but yeah, that's all he's trying to say, folks.
But to be fair, I mean, the AAA studios are doing it too. Bungie did it with Destiny. You know what I mean?
Really, Sting was doing the music in Destiny?
No, but Bungie put a lot of money into Destiny and Destiny 2 and then didn't deliver the experience that they said they would. So,
Well, that was because they channeled all their money was spent in advertising for Destiny.
that's right. And the difference is that they actually did sell a lot of copies and did make a lot of money. But now people have moved on to other things and their player base is depleted and the DLC isn't selling like it could have. So it goes both ways. It's not just indie studios that are doing this. Regardless, that has been our topic of the week. And Mac, back over to you, buddy.
Sure. Well, so as you know, as Mr. Nice Guy has alluded to, and as we do every week, we like to take a look at a game that is being crowdfunded. It's a segment we call Kick or Kickstart. And in this, I'll present a game. We'll take a look at it. We'll discuss some of the virtues, some of the vices, some of the qualities of the game that interest us. And then at the end, Mr. Nice Guy and I will deliver our determination whether or not we think this should be kicked out of here because it's garbage, or if it should be kickstarted. And we encourage you who are watching with us to weigh in as well.
That's right.
And this one I'm kind of excited about. It's called Ray Gun Gadabout. So for those of you listening to this after the fact, you can check it out on Kickstarter. And for those of you here, I've dropped the link in the chat. So I'm going to not mention the most obvious thing first. Instead, I'm going to mention that it's being done by a group of people out of Montreal, Canada. They were looking for about $20,000 US converted from Canadian into to making this. They expect to have the completed game drop sometime around August of 2019. Yes, it has some. It's a side scroller. Part of the game is side scrolling in that you'll fight a lot of enemies, shooting. You have a shield. You have a totally not a lightsaber. There is also a sort of a 2D space exploration where you fly around to various things. It's supposed to be open world, so you can, or open galaxy more like, so that you can go to any various places and look at what you want to look at, stop on various planets, and yeah, explore and enjoy. There's planet side and galactic travel, as they call it. Specifically their rewards, they've got things from as low as, let's see, 15 Canadian dollars, which is about 12 US, to get a Steam key basically for the game itself. You get things like a digital art book for 19 US dollars. If you go up to something more like 200 US dollars, you get private beta access, which it says the estimated delivery is supposed to be 2019, but the beta is going to be more sooner than August. They just haven't mentioned exactly when. But also the game download won't be till August 2019. So I'm presuming it's going to be sometime in early 2019. That's kind of the way these things tend to go. But the artwork looks good. Lots of reasonable reward tiers. And let's see. And some information about the thing. It looks like, I believe, I want to say that it's just one person doing this one, and that's Michael. I am the programmer and artist on Raygun Gadabout. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. This is the first game so it's basically going to be a, one-man show, at least as far as I can see. So Mr. Nice Guy, poke some holes at it. Tell me what you don't like.
Dude, it honestly looks really good. I'm not going to lie. The only thing I don't like is it almost looks a little bit too cartoony.
Too cartoony? Too
Yeah.
cartoony, Mr. Nice Guy. Coming from the man who plays Splatoon?
I don't play Splatoon. My kids play Splatoon.
Oh,
I actually
okay.
can't stand Splatoon, but my kids love it.
I just know you have it.
I do have it. I have Splatoon 2 for the Switch. I do. No, I mean, it looks really good. I mean, I think for $12 to get a digital copy of the game, I think that it's worth it. More and more, I'm wanting to play these types of games on the Switch, so I wish it was coming to Switch. With it being a one-man team, I can't blame him for going PC only at this point. And I think that he has really reasonable prices for his Kickstarter rewards. I don't think he's delusional, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the time and the price. I mean, he might be erring a little bit too on the low side, but he's certainly, but saying, hey, it's going to be out a year and a half from now, and $20,000 seems like for one person, one team, that might be pretty close.
Yeah, so I mean that's a positive. It's a frustration that you're putting down money and then not getting it for a year and a half potentially. But it also shows that he's not delusional once again, and that he's realistic in his goals as far as how quickly he can accomplish this.
Well, and then there are those few of us who put down money in 2013 and are going to see something in 2018. Chasm,
That's
me,
right,
Maction.
right.
So, I mean, patience is a virtue. It's the only virtue I have, but there it is.
Yeah, so I don't know, man. I think I like this. I think it looks cool, and I like. Do you see the artist as well?
Yeah, he's the. Yep, yes, he is.
Dude, that's even more impressive to me. I think that I like this. I think I don't have anything negative to say.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Nice Guy. But as everybody here knows, I have one really, really staunch rule, and that is that I need to see a playable demo. If I am going to put down the money, if I'm going to take a risk on your project, I need to know that you can deliver the goods. And for me, that means a playable demo. And I am pleased to say that this does have a playable demo.
Yes!
So
How
this
was
checks
it?
all the boxes. Actually, I've been so strapped for time, I haven't had a chance to play it.
Oh, okay.
But the very fact that there is a playable demo means that, if there was a problem with the playable demo, I would have read about it in the comments. Someone would be like, man, this playable demo sucks or something like that, because that's the internet. But I haven't played it yet, but pending my finding a few minutes to play it, I will play it, get back to you. I am almost certainly going to kickstart this one because it checks all the check marks. And yeah, it is a game for me. It's even that sort of, Metroidvania, but it even has that going for it.
Or is it just a platformer?
Nope. Non-linear action adventure, and I'm pretty sure I've seen the word. Oh, never mind. Maybe I'm just wishful thinking. But it certainly seems like you'll unlock new powers that gives you that allows you to explore new areas.
What level do you think you'll fund it at?
Probably. Well, the thing is, me, I really like getting beta access, so I might go for the $30 level to grab beta access. Okay. I think that would be fun. If they had an alpha access, which they don't, but if they did, I would quite enjoy, being a participant in alphas as long as it's not too expensive, but that's not an option. So I won't worry about it.
Okay, cool. So is it time for us to vote, Mac?
It is. And kickstart from me.
Yeah, I'm going to say kickstart this too. I'm tempted to do it at the $12 level. I don't really game on PC, and so the fact that it's only on Steam is my only holdup. But I think this has potential, and I like that it's a one-man team. It's ironic that we were just talking about this earlier, how people
I know, right?
Costs. And how much is he asking for total?
About $20,000 US.
See, and that's very reasonable. It also leads me to believe that he's not planning on paying himself much out of the proceeds from the
Yeah,
Kickstarter.
it kind of sounds a bit like a passion project.
It does, and that once it starts to sell copies, then he will pay himself at that point. So that's fantastic. He's prepared. It's really good. The artwork is very endearing. Even though I feel like it's a little cartoony, it's very endearing. So I hope this succeeds. I say kickstart. That's what my vote.
Awesome. And as of this moment, it's unanimous kickstart. You, me, and everyone who's voted in the chat. And remember to keep voting. And for those of you listening to this after the fact, just say it out loud on your commute. We have highly trained surveillance drones going around tallying your votes.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I had for kick or kickstart, Mr. Nice Guy. You know what I could really go for right about now?
What's that, Mac?
A dummy.
A dummy? Well, Mac, you're in luck. Because guess what? It's time for our next segment of the show. It's time for my favorite segment of the show. The dummy of the week. A segment of the show where we talk about someone who did something stupid, idiotic, or downright dumb and make fun of them. And this week's story comes from NOLA.com, which stands for New Orleans, Louisiana. It says, an Algiers man stole a Wii Fit game and then threatened the victim at gunpoint, sparking a search that turned up a bag of stolen electrical fuses in the home he shares with his girlfriends, New Orleans police said.
Stolen electrical fuses?
Yeah, this is weird. So immediately I think, why are you stealing a Wii Fit game? Those are probably 99 cents at GameStop because we're 2 generations removed from the Wii at this point. We've had the Wii, we've had the Wii U, we now have the Switch. I'm pretty sure you could find a used copy of a Wii Fit on disc without having to steal it. Yeah, we already got people face palming in the chat. And yeah, I don't know why you would steal electrical fuses. They're what, 2 cents a fuse? They're more than that. But regardless, the story goes on to say Kevin Owens, 32, and his girlfriend, 31-year-old Jessica Miles, are accused of various drug offenses, illegal possession of stolen things. Is there such thing as legal possession of stolen things? Anyway, and illegal carrying of a firearm while in possession of illegal drugs. Now that seems like double dipping, police. Saying that they're charged with drug offenses and also holding a firearm while having drugs. That seems like double dipping, but that's just me. Owens was also booked with aggravated assault with a firearm and theft in connection with the investigation, police said. According to the New Orleans Police Department, the victim told police that on March 22nd, he approached the couple's home in the 2200 block of Springbrook Lane while trying to sell a Wii Fit game for an acquaintance. Okay, now, how good of friends do you have to be with someone to sell a Wii Fit game for them? How did that scenario even get started? Someone was like, hey man, I need a favor. I need to sell this Wii game to somebody who's interested on Craigslist, but I'm not going to be home in time. I need this 99 cents. Can you please go sell it for me? How did that even happen? It goes on to say, first it says Owens took the game from the victim and went into his apartment. After waiting for Owens to decide whether to buy the game, the victim knocked on the door. Now, that was the first mistake right there. If someone is deciding whether or not to buy a 10-year-old game, just let them look at the game in front of you. Don't let them take it home. That's ridiculous. Owens then opened the door and pointed a gun at the victim, demanding he leave. Detectives later searched the Springbrook Lane home, recovering a gun and the stolen video game. During the search, officers noticed a bag containing a large amount of electrical fuses. They later learned the fuses had been stolen from several apartments in the area. Mac, can you think of any good reason why you would need to steal electrical fuses?
No, and most certainly not just normal ones. I mean, for a brief period of time, Mr. Nice Guy, I worked at a store that it was electrical supply stuff. You know,
Okay.
Things like big stuff for contractors, for things those big old fuses that are like as big as your hand, you know, and
Yep.
big old glass tubes. Those things, those were pretty expensive. Those,
Sure.
you know, I mean, depending upon what you could, I mean, some of them cost like $100 a pop, but those were things that you would not find in apartments. So stealing fuses from apartments, what on earth?
Maybe he just
I
wanted
just
his
don't know.
neighbor's electrical stuff to not work.
I guess.
That's crazy. A bag full, and fuses aren't that big. So, I mean, to have a bag full of them, he must have stolen quite a few.
Yeah.
It goes on to say, In a Thursday news release, the New Orleans Police Department did not indicate whether drugs were found in the home, but jail records show that both Owens and Miles were booked on March 22nd with possession of marijuana, hydrocortisone, clonazepam, diazepam. I don't even know what some of this stuff is.
Hydrocortisone?
Yeah.
That's
my bad. Hydrocodone.
Oh, hydrocodone. Okay, yep, that's different. Sorry, carry on.
Clonazepam. I don't even know what these things are. Diazepam.
Diazepam.
Crack cocaine, and tramadol, along with the charge of illegally carrying a firearm while in possession of illegal drugs. An Orleans Parish magistrate judge found no probable cause for the marijuana charges.
No probable cause for this? So was it charged for possession of marijuana without any actual marijuana? It was just like, we'll just throw that in there.
That's the thing. It's like, I mean, there's 6 drugs listed here that they were in possession of, and the judge was like, yes, you had the crack. Yes, you had the tramadol. Yes, you had all the other ones, but I don't believe you had the marijuana. I think they just made that part up. It's kind of a moot point at that point. Regardless, kids, don't do any of the stuff that you just heard in this story. This is absolutely ridiculous, and that's our dummy of the week, Mac.
All right, and what a dummy indeed. Well, Mr. Nice Guy, now in this last official segment of the show, which we call Legalese, sometimes it is my distinct honor and privilege to discuss an ongoing thing that has potential ramifications. This is one such thing, and this is very often how things work in a legal context. Small things happen and they lead to larger things. And I'm sorry, I did not phrase that well, but you know what I'm getting at. This is a small thing, but it could have more widely ranging ramifications. And there are a lot of spots in here to pun, and I'm going to settle for just one pun and say that this certainly could prove to be the death of whales, thanks to a lawsuit involving Big Fish Casino. Whales,
real
big fish. You know,
Yeah,
sorry.
like that.
Thank you. So, let's talk about Big Fish Casino. Big Fish Casino, like many mobile games, is a game that runs off of a virtual currency. It has essentially tons of casino things. We've got blackjack. We've got roulette. We've got a bunch of these different. It's basically just a game casino running on this virtual currency that has no exchange rate for dollars. It has no real life component, but you can buy more currency to play. Right? This sounds like almost like every game with microtransactions out there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, you play, virtual currency is important. You can buy the virtual currency, or you can wait until, the virtual currency replenishes on its own.
Yep.
That describes, for example, Final Fantasy Record Keeper that I talked about earlier. Well, oh, wow. I'm sorry, the page kind of died while I was going. So there had already been a lawsuit brought from a whale in the mobile game industry. That's what they call the people who contribute most to the success of the game. You tend to have a few whales that wind up paying out tons of money. They make tons of purchases, whereas most other people don't, right? So one such person, I don't have her name in front of me at the moment, but she brought suit against Big Fish Casino for having spent, in her estimation, over $1,000 on virtual currency. Hang on, let me see if I can't find. Sorry, I'm scanning. Yes, Cheryl Cater in 2005 was when she sued Big Fish, claiming to having spent more than $1,000. And this suit was carried out in the state of Washington, wherein part of the part of the description about gambling, right, in the state of Washington is a little bit, shall we say, a little bit unclear. Specifically, that there's a thing called something of value is exactly one of the words describing whether or not something is gambling. And the suit originally argued that the chips, the virtual currency in this Big Fish casino game, represent something of value. And therefore, this game constituted gambling in the state of Washington. And so that was said, they said no, and they threw it out in 2016. But during the appeals process, a higher judge, a higher authority, a federal appeals court ruled that yes, it is something of value, and therefore in the state of Washington does constitute gambling.
Ooh, a plot twist.
A huge plot twist. Now this throws it back to the lower courts for this suit to continue if she wants to continue forward with this, in order to maybe I'm not exactly sure what she's going for, but maybe she can get what she's looking at because it has been determined to be gambling. But this also is, a little bit, it should be a little bit concerning for some people who have games supported by microtransactions, because this fairly closely matches the description of most other things. Now, maybe federal appeals court might rule that yes, but only because it is a casino. But who knows? You never know until the question is brought forward which way the ruling is going to go, and then at which point it applies to many people. So could this potentially serve to take things like Final Fantasy Record Keeper, something I'm objectively not a fan of? Could that mean that in the state of Washington that is also gambling? Is online gambling? Only time will tell, because this is definitely a clear case. These are literally the gambling, the casino games, but played with this virtual currency. This is kind of an easy jump, but it's not that much farther of a jump now that it is in fact online gambling. It's not that much more of a jump to say that something like Final Fantasy Record Keeper is gambling. Does this mean that we will have microtransactions and virtual currencies in games go away? Maybe. We'll see. There's certainly enough public anger about microtransactions. Let's reflect on what was it? Star Wars Battlefield 2? Right, Mr. Nice Guy?
Battlefront 2, yep.
Battlefront 2, yeah. Star Wars Battlefront 2 that was recently released, and people were outraged about having to buy in order to unlock these characters, having to essentially engage in a type of virtual currency to maybe or maybe not get what they want through loot boxes in other games. This is an ongoing argument, and this might be the first nail in the coffin of microtransactions in games. I mean, who knows? This could be, and I guarantee you that there are people who are right now filing for a change of venue, motions for a change of jurisdiction to try and move things over to Washington, because now this is precedent, and this could be leveraged in other potential cases. So where do we go from here? Who knows? But it's going to be exciting to find out.
Yes, it is.
And this has big ramifications, and I know I'm saying that, but sometimes we see lots of small things, like for example, what else? Lindsay Lohan loses her lawsuit again. Let's see, those tattoos, right? We've talked about that a lot in the past, and I can hit on that more next week, but that's also a thing that's going on. But none of these have quite as much ramifications for the future. So this excites me, and I certainly have my own little bias, but hey, I will keep you updated as things go. And even if it's a year from now, 2 years from now, when we start seeing these things rolling, but this could very well be the first step toward something different. So that's what we have for legalese today. Keep your eyes on this. because it's going to be big.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that's our show. Thank you for tuning in for episode number 63 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest gaming podcast in the galaxy. Now, before we go, we like to do one last segment each week called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that. And we want to get your opinions in the chat because we're always looking for new, nerdy stuff to get into. So, Mac, you want to start us off this week, man?
I do. As for what I've been watching, Mrs. the Mac and I have been watching through Better Call Saul once again.
Dude, I just saw today that season 3 is on Netflix.
Yes, and that's why. As a matter of fact, because season 3 just barely got on Netflix, lately what they've done is, do you know when season 4 is going to start airing?
I don't, but I'd assume soon because it's
on. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's let me see, just premiere. It's not going to be till September. But in the past they've put it on Netflix immediately before it winds up releasing.
Yep.
Anyway, Mrs. the Mac and I, we're looking forward to season 4, even though we're going to have to wait till September. But we're just watching through it again. So that's what we've been watching. What I've been playing, though, myself and my neighbor, we've been playing Halo Combat Evolved, the first Halo,
Nice.
on the original old school Xbox. And we've been playing through on the higher difficulty levels.
Nice.
So it's been a lot of fun. And Celeste, of course. Had a fun time, got all 200 strawberries, and made myself a strawberry perler to put on the wall with the rest of my perler trophies.
Dude, that's awesome. Now, with Xbox, we talked about this a little earlier. Are there other games on Xbox that you think would make sense for them to be bringing back through backwards compatibility?
There's one that I can think of that I would like to see, but only because, so it's that dancing game I like, Pump It Up Exceed.
Okay.
And it had an Xbox release, but it had a step editor, so you could basically bring in a song, and do your make your own dance steps to it. But that only worked through the whole Xbox Online thing. So if they brought that back and restored that functionality, heck yes. But it's kind of a moot point. That's the only thing I can think of from original Xbox.
Okay, sweet. Well, cool. As far as what I've been watching, and by the way, let us know in the chat, people, if you're here, let us know what games you've been watching and what shows you've been playing. I said that backwards. So I've been watching Suits. Such a good show, man. Honestly, it kind of makes me wish I had gone to law school. Now, I'm not so stupid that I think that's the way the law really works. It's Hollywood, but it's just a fantastic show. I feel like they must have some lawyers on their writing staff because it's so well crafted, and the technicalities that they use to get people off and things like that. It's just such a good show. It's money. Also been watching The Walking Dead. It's fantastic. No spoilers because I don't think Mac is caught up yet. And that's what I've been watching. Mostly just those two shows. Oh, actually one more. I just started watching The Runaways on Hulu. If you guys know me, you know that The Runaways is one of my favorite comic book series of all time. And I hadn't watched the TV show until now. It's exclusive to Hulu. It is a Marvel show. And I'm enjoying it so far. 1.5 episodes in, I give it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a solid show. And then as far as what I've been playing, I am also playing Celeste. I may actually finish the game tonight, at least the original levels, and then I'll do the B-sides and the C-sides. Did hop on the arcade today. Played some 1943. And what else? That's pretty much it. I haven't gotten back into Monster Hunter yet. I just don't have the time. So that's it for me, Mac. Do you want to see what people in the chat have been into?
Sure. For watching, we have Jessica Jones Season 2. Apparently it's overrated. I disagree. I think it's properly rated, but that's just me. Cloverfield Paradox. Yes, that was awful. Altered Carbon, pretty expensive, but rather empty. I kind of felt that way after the first 2 episodes myself. For playing Bioshock Collection, Burnout Paradise Remastered, Shadow of the Colossus, that one's probably one of the best games of all time, and Batman the Enemy Within, which I hear great things about. So
Dude,
thank
Mac,
you very much for the...
have you played Shadow of the Colossus?
No, but I am aware of what it is and how amazing it is.
Yeah, I heard it's amazing. It's they re-released it for PS4, and I it sounds so cliche, but I just have not had the time to even think about it. But I've heard it's so amazing, and it's a must-play.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we got Galvatron in here hating on my TV show Suits. He says, Harvey Specter is one of the biggest douche bags on TV. He's completely unsympathetic, and every episode involves him barging into somebody's office, slamming down a manila folder, and the other person folding and giving in. It's a great show, though, and I think it's fantastic. Mac, anything else you want to say to the people before we wrap up episode 63?
Thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in 64.
You guys are the best viewers on Twitch. Keep it nerdy. We'll be back same bat place, same bat time, same bat rhymes next week. Deuces. Love ya. Keep it nerdy. Bye.